Hello. Well, let's start by bringing some breaking news this hour. In the last few minutes in New York, a legal document which Prince Andrew's lawyer believes could stop a civil case against him in the United States has been made public. Now, the Duke of York has consistently denied sexually assaulting Virginia Giuffre was 17. And this document, which has just been unsealed in New York by the court there, is a settlement agreement between Giuffre Epstein, the late financier, and Virginia Giuffre, now known as Virginia Roberts. It dismisses the case for damages brought by Ms. Giuffre in return for the sum of $500,000. So the question is, what impact is this going to have on Prince Andrew and the case involving him? We can talk now to our legal affairs correspondent, Dominic Casciani. And Dominic, this has just come out. This has just been unsealed in the last few minutes. You've had a chance to read at least a bit of it. Talk us through the crucial details.
So this is a 12-page document signed in November 2009, which seems a whole world away. But you've got to bear in mind that the allegations that Virginia Giuffre makes against Giuffre Epstein and people around him, including Prince Andrew, date back 20 years. Now, this was part of her case where she was suing him in a court in Florida, this is Epstein, saying that she'd been lured into a world of sexual abuse and that she'd also been abused by people around Epstein, his closest confidants. She talks in her case about being abused by politicians and royalty, but they're not named in the document. Now, she settled the case. She was paid $500,000. That's about £371,000 by today's rates. And in the document, this is the crucial bit, she says that she releases and forever discharges, in the legal language, Epstein and any other person or entity who could have been a potential defendant in that action that she was bringing in Florida. And in doing so, that she agrees not to bring any damages claim against anyone from the beginning of time, effectively, up until the date of that settlement. Now, the reason why this is important, Ben, is because the Prince's lawyers are going to go into court tomorrow in New York and say, aha, the plain language of this document makes clear that even though we say her allegations against the Duke of York are baseless, she can't even try to bring them because she's effectively signed away her rights to sue anyone. So this is a really, really important document in this case.
But the document really concerns allegations around what happened in Florida, doesn't it? And geography is quite important here, isn't it?
It could be. This is the really interesting thing about it, because Ms. Giuffre's team seem incredibly confident that this document is going to be effectively irrelevant to their case. I mean, they've already said in legal filings before this release that when this document becomes public, as it has done today, it will be seen to be, in their words, outside the four corners of her case against Prince Andrew. It does not cover her claims against him. In particular, she's alleging that she was abused by the Duke of York in New York, in London, and in the Caribbean. Nothing to do with Florida, which is kind of at the core of this case. And I think this is what's going to get argued about tomorrow. Also, on top of that, the Duke's lawyers are bringing all sorts of other motions tomorrow in the New York case to have it thrown out. They're saying she doesn't, for technical reasons, she can't bring the case because she doesn't live in the US anymore. And they're effectively saying the whole thing's got to be stopped now. But she is digging in and saying, whatever this document says, we're happy for it to be in the public because we say it doesn't actually stop our case against the Prince.
So it's going to be argued about tomorrow in New York, as you say. When will we get a decision by the judge in this case on the impact of this unsealed document in particular?
I think this is really difficult to say. We're going to hear from the judge tomorrow afternoon about what he says should be the timetable going forward. He's already set quite a tight timetable in terms of what he expects the Duke of York and Virginia Giuffre to do in terms of releasing evidence. Now, that is also, I mean, interestingly, a right side row going on there as well. Because if you remember the Newsnight interview where Prince Andrew said two really interesting things, that he couldn't have met this woman in a nightclub, Tramp's nightclub in London, because she recalled him sweating. He said he didn't sweat because of a medical condition. And secondly, on the night in question, he'd been at a Pizza Express in Woking with his daughters. Her team have said, well, prove both of those things. Prove you were in that Pizza Express in Woking. Prove you don't sweat or didn't sweat at the time. Now, he's objecting to those disclosure requests, saying they're breaches of privacy and he doesn't hold the information in relation to Pizza Express. So there's all sorts of things getting argued about here. That's going to carry on, even if the judge reserves his judgment on this document. So I think there's going to be a lot of arguments about disclosure, a lot of arguments about this, and I think it's going to come down to some sort of very, very fine arguments about US law, which, to be honest, is slightly beyond me. It's going to be very,
beyond you,
very difficult, that one.
But anyway, fascinating that this document has been unsealed after so many years, originally signed and sealed in 2009. Dominic, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. Dominic Casciani, our legal affairs correspondent.